10 weeks ago, I started this season with one simple idea. Performance isn't built in the moment, it's built long before the moment arrives. Today, I want to leave you with one final thought. After more than 20 years working with leaders, elite athletes, and high performing teams, I've realized something. People who perform when it counts aren't different. They're simply trained differently. Welcome back to the Cognitive Athlete Podcast. I'm your host, Clint, high performance coach, speaker, and author of The Cognitive Athlete. And this is the final episode of this season. Firstly, a big thank you. Whether you've listened to one episode or all 10, I genuinely appreciate you spending this time with me. When I planned this season, I didn't want to create another productivity or leadership podcast. There are already plenty of those out there. I wanted to explore one question. Why do some people consistently perform under pressure while others struggle? And after 10 episodes, I think the answer is surprisingly simple. Let's dive into it. We've talked about many things this season: decision quality, pressure, emotions, recovery, consistency, and reflection. On the surface, they look like separate topics. Guess what? They're not. They're all connected. They're all part of the same system. A system for performing when it matters most. And that's probably my biggest takeaway. High performance isn't one big breakthrough. It's hundreds of small decisions made consistently over time. People often ask me what separates the highest performers. Is it intelligence, talent, or experience? Look, sometimes it is, but not as often as people think. The biggest difference I've noticed is high performers don't wait until pressure arrives to start preparing. They prepare before they need to. They build routines before life gets busy. They recover before they're exhausted. They practice difficult conversations before they become unavoidable. They reflect before repeating the same mistake. They don't rely on motivation. They rely on their preparation. If there's one thing I hope you've taken away from this season, it's that performance isn't something you switch on. It's something you build. With every pause, every review, every workout, every good night's sleep, every difficult conversation, the boundaries that you hold, every decision to prepare instead of reacting. Individually, they don't seem like much. However, collectively, they change who you become. That's what high performance really is. Not one heroic moment. It is thousands of ordinary moments, done well and repeated over time. People often ask me why I chose the title, The Cognitive Athlete, and the answer was pretty simple. Athletes train their bodies with intent. They don't leave performance to chance. They prepare, they practice, they recover, and they review. And then they repeat that cycle, whether it be a yearly cycle or a 4-year cycle for an Olympics. My belief is that leaders should approach their thinking the same way. Your mind is your greatest performance asset. It deserves the same level of training, the same discipline, the same commitment. Not just when things are going well, especially when they aren't. That's what becoming a cognitive athlete means. Not striving for perfection, committing to continual improvement. One decision, one habit, one lesson at a time. Here's my challenge to you. As this season comes to an end, I don't want you to remember 10 podcast episodes. If you do, I'll give you a gold star. But I want you to remember one question. Who am I becoming? Not what should I do next? Who am I becoming through the decisions I make every day? Am I becoming someone who prepares? Someone who reflects? Someone who protects their energy? Someone who performs when it counts? Identity isn't built in the big moments. It's built in the small ones, repeated consistently over time. Before we finish, if you've enjoyed this season, I'd really appreciate your support and ask a massive favour. If you could take a moment to follow or subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss any future episodes. And if you found value in these conversations, please leave a rating or a review. It really helps leaders discover this podcast and allows me to continue creating practical content like this. And finally, if someone comes to mind while listening, share the episode with them, or even better, share the whole season with them. You never know, it might be exactly what that person needs to hear. If you've listened to this season and found yourself thinking, I know I should be doing these things, you're not alone. That's probably the most common thing I hear from leaders. They know what works. The challenge is applying it consistently when work gets busy. That's why I've created the next 10-week cognitive athlete training cycle, and it starts on the 27th of July. We'll take everything we've talked about throughout the season and turn it into practical habits, real routines, real accountability, and real implementation. The good thing is I've got 6 places available. If you'd like to work with me directly, you'll find the booking link in the show notes. I would love to help you become the leader you know you're capable of being. And here's a final thought, and I'll leave you with this. Pressure doesn't create performance. It reveals preparation. Preparation isn't built overnight. It's built every day. So don't wait for the big opportunity to perform. Train for it now. One decision, one habit, and one lesson at a time. Thank you for spending the entire season with me. I hope these conversations have challenged your thinking. More importantly, I hope they've changed the way you approach performance. Until next season, keep training your mind, keep looking after your energy, and keep becoming the person who performs when it counts. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next season.